Every election cycle, we talk about this is the most election of our lifetime. Lawrence, this one is. I have been fortunate and blessed to, during the course of being vice president, have many situations where it becomes clear to me that there are, people of every age and gender, by the way, who see something about being the first that lets them know they don't need to be limited by other people's limited understanding of who can do what. And I think that's important, and it relates to all people. For far too long, our economy has not been working for working people. Trickle-down economics benefited big corporations and the wealthiest Americans, but not workers. Well, Lester, here's the thing. I've been working on this issue for a very long time, and the kind of violence and danger that is associated with that trek, especially when we're talking about from Guatemala through Mexico to the United States, it is extremely dangerous. And the reason that I am in Guatemala is to address the reasons people leave home, flee. Knowing that the people who are here for generations, or if we know the history of Guatemala for centuries, they want to stay, they don't want to leave. But they need opportunity, they need assistance, they need support. Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border, and ask what is that reason, and then identify the problem so we can fix it. We don't want, listen, I don't think that Americans want people to be exposed to harm if they can avoid it. They're taking the trek from the place that they know that they want to stay. So I'm here in Guatemala to say, what can we do to support people and to give them a sense of hope that help is on the way? And I would suggest to you that we have seen progress already. When we have 12 of the biggest corporations of America who have, I convene them in my office, and they have agreed to help us work on this issue. Success so far is the bringing together of community-based organizations, not only in the United States, but here in Guatemala. Today, that was one of my meetings with civil society leaders, to let them know we see them, and we understand their concerns about corruption, and we also understand their role of leadership to help us in terms of how we prioritize our work in this region. I don't know that we're going to see listen, I've been very clear from the beginning. There's not going to be a quick fix. So we've seen progress, but the real work is going to take time to manifest itself. Will it be worth it? Yes. Will it take some time? Yes. Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
As a border district has said to you and the president, come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border. I'm in Guatemala because my focus is dealing with the root causes of migration. There may be some who think that that is not important, but it is my firm belief that if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes and address them. And so that's what I'm doing. Well, we're very clear. We believe that the PEOPLE Act needs to be passed, as does the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
The numbers don't add up.
Well, listen, we are focusing on the issue in a number of ways. There's certainly the piece that's about legislation. There's the piece that is about uplifting the issues and the folks who are at risk. Because, by the way, when we talk about partisanship, bipartisanship, this should be nonpartisan, not even bipartisan. Because the laws that are going to impede people to vote based on early voting, voting by mail, shortening the hours, eliminating or reducing the number of drop boxes that are available, that's going to hurt every voter. Your plan does not cover everyone in America by your staff's and your own definition. You do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task for what they have been doing to American families.
This idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about here. I don't know what math you do in California, but I tell you, that's a lot of money, and there will be a deductible.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced, to say, I will not seek the death penalty. I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then.
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well,
I
there
did
was
not
a
oppose
failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people. We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but just limited to what we have seen. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank and our NATO allies, and what is at stake at this very moment. What is at stake this very moment are some of the guiding principles around the NATO alliance.
And she's gotten so much bad publicity. And
a friend
one of
in
the
need
things
is a friend
that
in
is not helping her is when she actually says things that people start scratching their head over. Here she is yesterday in Sunset, Louisiana, talking about the significance of the passage of time. See if you can follow this logic.
The governor and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time. Right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine. And we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
People enjoy beating up on Kamala Harris so much that...
I would never. How dare you accuse me